We're in ninth lit, and we are reading Roland. We've just written a journal about inspiration and what inspires you. Um, all right, so I'm going to read the first one. We're in number 80, probably question number 34. We're not quite there yet. So the battle is about to begin, and at the top of page 91, the sound of the trumpets, is what has given their position away. So now the French know that the Saracens are out there, and they're going to attack them. And so 80 and 81, you'll see two examples, or an example of rapprochement. So just note it, I'll start. Oliver climbed upon a hilly crest, looks to his right along a grassy cleft, and sees the Paynims and how they ride abreast. To his companion Roland he calls and says, I see from Spain a tumult and a press, many bright hauberks and many shining helms. If they have wrath, they'll make it for our French. Ganelon knew it, false heart and traitor fell. When to the emperor he named us for this stead. Quoth Roland, silence, Count Oliver, my friend, he is my stepsire. I will have no word said. And then you're going to see that repeated, so there's going to be rapprochement. Isn't it interesting what Roland says when Oliver calls Ganelon a traitor? How does Roland respond to that?
He's like, don't insult him because he's my stepson.
Yeah, and I think we can all relate to that. If you have brothers and sisters, you can call them anything, but don't let somebody else do that. You're going to be very defensive if somebody else calls your brother or sister a name or does something to hurt them. That's the same scenario here. So why don't we start? Would you like to read Charlotte 81? And you'll notice the rapprochement immediately. Page 91, number 81.
Oliver's climbed a hill above the plain, whence he can look on all the land of Spain, and see how vast the Saracen array. All those bright homes with gold and jewels gathered, and all those shields, those oaks of burnished mail, and all those lances from which the
Pennon.
Yes.
Pennon. It's a flag.
Wait, even their, how do you say that?
Squadron.
Squadron.
We get the word squad from that. It's a short version of squadron.
Defy all estimate, he cannot count them. Their numbers are so great, stout as he is, he's mightily dismayed. He has hastens down as swiftly as he comes to the French and tells them all his tale.
Did you notice the rapprochement? So when you see things like that, mark it so you'll know. It's good practice. You'll get to see it and you'll recognize it. Why don't we go to Grayson? Yeah.
Quoth Oliver, Paynim strength I've seen, never on earth has such a hosting been. 100,000 in van ride under shield, their helmets laced, their hauberks all agleam, their spears upright, their heads of shining steel. Will have such battle as near was fought on the field. Our lords of France, God give you strength at need. Say ye stand fast, this field we cannot keep. The French all say, foul shame it were to flee. We are yours till death, no man of us will yield.
I saw two examples of hyperbole there. Anybody want to spot those for us? Yeah. Olivia.
Never on earth, sorry.
Yeah.
He's like counting them, he's like, I can't even count them.
Yeah, but you were gonna read, never on earth has such a hosting seen, right?
Yeah.
Or been, that's hyperbole, because, why is it?
Never on earth, it's like,
It's a bit exaggerated.
Yeah, whenever you say the word never before something, or always, you know, you're verging on hyperbole, yeah.
Is the second one, you'll have such a battle as narrow as Scotland?
Again, why is that hyperbole?
Because it has never in it.
Right.
It's like-
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good sign that you're dealing with hyperbole. I'm gonna switch things up a little bit and go this way.
Wait, which one?
Number 83.
Quoth Oliver, huge are the pain of horns, and of French the numbers seem less one. Companion Roland, I pray you sound your horn, that Charles may hear and fetch back all his force. Roland replies, Madam, where I and more, and in fair friend my fame would suffer scorn. I'll smite great Stokes with Durandal my sword. I'll die red high as the hilt with gore. This past the Paynims reached on a luckless morn. I swear to you death is doomed therefore.
All right, so this is one of 3 times, back to back to back, 83, 84, 85. Then Oliver requests Roland to blow the horn. Now, why would he want to do that? Well, he tells you. Why does he want to do that?
Because they're gonna die if he does anything.
He wants Charlemagne to come back.
Oh, well, yeah.
Right, they need reinforcements. He even says that. Pray, blow the horn, and Roland will come back, and every time Roland will say no, and primarily why? You can imagine, pride. Rosamund, pride. What are you gonna say, Jacob? Yeah, I like that. That's exactly right. All right, so we'll skip Ben, who's not here, and we'll go over here to, thank you, yeah.
Oh, yes, 85 or 84. Companion Roland, that one.
Yep.
Thank you. Companion Roland, our Oliphant now blow. Charles in the passes ill, hear it as he goes. Trust me, the French will all return right now, right so. Now God forbid Roland makes answer wrong. That living man should say he saw me go, blowing of horns for any Paynim foe. Ne'er shall my kindred be put to such reproach, when I shall stand in this great clash of hosts. I'll strike 1,700 strokes. Blood red the steel of Jurgle shall flow. Stout are the French, and will do battle bold. These men of Spain shall die, I have no hope. When Roland sees...
Hang on, did we do 84?
you've read the wrong.
Oh, I did. They both say Companion Roland, I read the
Well,
wrong.
why is that?
Oh, it's the...
Because it's a reproach. Did you finish?
Yes. I
Okay,
finished
well, let's
the
just
song.
back up and go to Dominic. Go back to 84. It really doesn't matter the order.
Companion Roland, or Oliphant, now sound, and Charles will hear and turn his armies around. Was the chorus with all his kingly power? Roland replies, may never God allow that I should cast dishonor on my house, or on fair France bring any ill renown. Rather will I with the Durandal strike out, with this good sword, nor my baldric bound. From point to hill you'll see the blood run down. Woe worth the Paynims that here they make this vow. I pledge my faith will smite them dead on the ground.
Okay, so in that first one, they both say the same thing. Circle the word Oliphant. What is Oliphant?
It's the horn.
It's the name of the horn. Why do you think they call it Oliphant?
Makes a noise like an elephant.
It, very good. That's probably, what else might it?
Sounds like the same elephant.
It, well, it sounds like it, right. And because it could make the sound of an elephant, or what else could it be made of?
Oh, an elephant's horn.
Yeah, it could be ivory, so, that could be the reason. What is, we said pride, that's his motivation, that's his motivation. And then you go, I asked you right about your motivation. Pride was probably not it, but, it is Roland's. And then the word baldric, B-A-L-D-R-I-C-K, would you circle that? It's the 4th line. I didn't, I had to look it up. You know what a baldric is?
Wait, where?
It's in that 84, the 4th line from the bottom.
Oh, okay.
A baldric is a strap or a belt that runs from this shoulder to this to here. Sure, it runs, it looks like a sash, but it's a leather probably. It runs this way, and at the end is a hook, and that's where the sheath goes for the sword. So that the sword hangs from the baldric, which runs across his chest. After reading enough of this, you'll kind of get to know these words. That's helpful. So we'll go to 86 now, because 83, 84, 85 do have Raposha, and he turns him down 3 times. He asks him 3 times, blow the horn, 3 times he says no. So we'll go to Eliza men and work our way back up.
What did we just say?
I don't know if we have yet. I think we did, yeah. I like this, the third part of the question, or the second part of the question. Why might this refusal point to something later in the story? What might this point to? He keeps refusing help.
Oh, his death.
Yes. It's kind of like Beowulf, who refused to have any help to fight the dragon. All right, so lots of men will start.
Can we get the answer to 34?
Yes, we did. Andy, you want to tell me?
Oh, so yes, so in 80, we just did 84 and 85, and it's the same Raposha thing where Roland wants, or Oliver wants to blow his horn, but Roland won't let him because he wants all the glory for himself. And we learned what a baldric was. It's line 4 from the bottom on 84, and it's like a leather strap that goes from shoulder to hip, and you have a sword on it. And we also learned that the horn is named Oliphant because it's either made out of an elephant's tusk, like ivory, or because it sounds like an elephant when you blow it. How would they have known what an elephant was?
So, why did he refuse, is the question.
Did they have known what a... Oh, but pride. It's just extremely prideful.
The question was, how did the French know about elephants? All I can remember is, like, let's see, what are we talking about? 778, maybe at least 700 years earlier, the famous general brought elephants to Europe to cross the Alps. Remember Hannibal crossing the Alps? And he had elephants.
Maybe they kept at least one. but-
Yeah, yeah. And, people do travel. I mean, there are people that have traveled, and but that's a great question. All right, we'll go to Liza.
Quoth Oliver, herein I see no blame. I have beheld the Saracens of Spain. They cover all the mountains and the vales. They spread across the hillsides and the plains. Great is the might for these foreigners display, and ours appears a very small array. I thirst the more, quoth Roland, for the fray. God and his angels forbid it now, I pray. That ere by me fair French should be disfamed, I'd rather die than thus be put to shame. If the king loves us, it's for our valor's sake.
Again, notice the motivation. He wants to avoid dishonor, and he wants to bring glory to himself and to his country. So why don't we go to Amelia? And before she reads it, I want you to underline the first line, because in one sentence, or it is a sentence, it's a clause, but in one clause, it summarizes the difference between Roland and Oliver. So that one line tells you really all you need to know about both characters. Yeah.
Roland is fierce and Oliver is wise, and both for valor they bear away the prize. Once horsed in arms, the quarrel to decide. For dread of death, the field they'll never fly. The counts are brave, their words are stern and high. Now the false paynims with wondrous fury ride. Quoth Oliver, look Roland, there in sight. Charles is far off, and these are very nigh. You would not sound your elephants for pride. Had we the emperor, we should have
so they just, Oliver's not gonna ask him again, but he reminds them, we could get out of this if it weren't for you, but now we gotta fight, so.
Oliver should just blow it. Didn't need to blow it.
Well, he's a friend still, and he's he is Roland is the commander of this outfit, so he's not gonna disobey him. Let's see, did we go to Dominic you've read, right? So we'll go to, why don't we go to Amanda, and we'll go this way.
When Roland sees that battle there must be, leopard nor lion, ruler so fierce as he calls the French guides, Oliver give heed. Sir, friend and comrade, such words you shall not speak. When the king gave us the French to serve this need, these 20,000 he chose to do the deed. And well he knew not one would flinch or flee. Men must endure such hardship for their liege, and bear for him great cold and burning heat, suffer sharp wounds and let their bodies bleed. Smite with your lance, and I with my good steel. My Durandal the emperor gave to me, and if I die, who gets it may agree that he who bore it, the right good knight, was he.
We don't know it yet, but there's a story behind the sword Durandal, so we'll hear more about that in a minute. Let's see, why don't we go, we'll go to Spencer.
Then to their side comes the Archbishop, riding his horse and up the hillside spurring. He calls the French and preaches them a sermon. Barons, my lord, Charles picked us for this purpose. We must be ready to die in our king's service. Christendom needs you, so help us to preserve it. Battle you'll have, of that you may be certain. Here comes the Paynims, your own eyes have observed them. Now beat your breast and ask God for his mercy. I will absolve you and set your souls in surety. If you should die, blessed martyrdom, your burden will sit on high in paradise eternal. The French alight and all kneel down and worship. God's sheriff, and blessing the Archbishop Confederate. And for the penance he bids them all strike firmly.
So Bishop Turpin, remember that was absolved, wasn't that one of our words? We've already had that word. Well, Bishop Turpin absolves them of their sin. If you die with unforgiven sin in this view of things, then you're in trouble. So you want to be given the last rites by your priest before you die. That will just take care of all the sins that you've committed in the last hour or however many. You want to go into eternity having everything covered. That's the way the church kind of taught that at the time. So he blesses them all. Now they can die and go to heaven because they won't have any sins on their conscience.
It doesn't seem too accurate how it works.
Not biblically, you're right. That's not the scriptural way we look at it. You're already forgiven. If you're a believer, you're already forgiven. Now you need to ask forgiveness after that when you sin, but it's not a requirement for salvation. If you died without asking him to forgive the sins of the last 10 minutes, that's not keeping you out of heaven. His death was good for the rest of your life. All right, 90, we'll go to Griffin.
The French rise up, and on their feet stand close. All of their soldiers are their commander. And the Archbishop God's blessing has bestowed. And on swift steeds they leap to saddle bow. Armed with the arms prescribed by knightly code, all are now ready into the field to go. Count Roland said to Oliver, "So, sir, my companion, too true the word you spoke, that all of us by Ganelin were sold." He's, how do you say that?
It's taken, but you say tame. You only hear one syllable.
He's tamed his limbs of love, because his old members vengeance I will now be slow, more skill, and the king has bargained for Alba as he need. He'll need the sword to fetch his riches.
The word shriven, if you wanna circle that, that means what we just said, it needs to be, it's the ceremony to be absolved of your sins. So he shrives them, or shrift, or shriven, those are all words. Romeo and Juliet, it appears in that several times, yeah.
So is he basically like, because before when Oliver said Roland was like a traitor, is he now admitting to that? Like, yeah, he is a traitor. Because like before he was angry.
Yeah, he can say it, he just didn't wanna hear Oliver say it. Alright, so let me mark where we are.
Wait, what's the answer to question 35?
Would you read it?
How do the actions and words in lines 86 through 88 echo the words and actions before and after Beowulf's final battle with the dragon?
Oh, how he wants to fight by himself.
Yeah, that's what I would say. He wants the glory of fighting alone. So we'll start this tomorrow, and we will talk about veterans. Remind me so we can do that. I want to hear your stories and the people you know.